Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back. Now we are at the week 3. So we are going to look at on the organization of information in different contexts. Before this, we already covered in the library environment. So now we move to the other information agencies known as a archive and also museum. So now is archive. So this is a sneak peek at archive. So we do have the National Archive of Australia. This is the interface of the National Archive of Australia. So what is archive? Basically, archive is defined as material created or received by a person, family or organization, public or private, in the conduct of their affairs and preserved because of the enduring value contained in the information they contain or as evidence of the function and responsibility of their creator. Alright, so archive also defined as a division within an organization responsible for maintaining organization's records of enduring value. So organization which collection archive of individuals, family or other organization known as a collection repository, and also is also known as a building, okay, or portion thereof housing archival collection. Okay, so there are two types of archive, which is public archive and private archive. Okay, so students always been confused with the types of library. They said that library have a private library. For the time being, we do not have a private library. Okay, the term is not we use because some students they feel confused with this archive. Okay, so only archive we do have a public and also private archive. Library we don't have a private library. So role of an archive is to keep the document and manuscript which have value that are maintained, preserved for the long-term usage and references. Okay, because we want to use it later on. Okay, so the profession in archive, basically archivist and also record keeper. So archive versus manuscripts. Archive permanently value record of organization, businesses and government record, and also meanwhile for manuscript it preserves the historical or literary record of people and families in the paper terms. Okay, so the types of archival collections. Archive preserve records of long-term value. So documents such as organizational or personal activities accumulated in the course of daily life and work. So organizational records consist of such things as annual reports, correspondence, personal records and the like. Meanwhile, for personal record consists of such things as correspondence, manuscript and personal paper, or personal collections such as scrapbooks or memorabilia. Okay, hence archival materials can be in many formats such as text, graphic, image, sounds recording, moving image recording, paper, analog or digital form. Okay, written as a digital materials. So note that accumulated equal to gathered or collected. Okay, so organizing information in archive. So archivist, okay, is a person who responsible for the process of appraisal, acquisition, arrangement, description, preservation and provision of access to archival document and made available for consultation. Okay, so archival document consists of unique items. It is one of a kind of the information sources. So usually original or primary information sources unavailable elsewhere except copies. Okay, so the original one normally being kept by the archive. So archival materials have been organized for centuries. Unlike library materials, archival materials are arranged and described in groups. Okay, so meanwhile for library we are more focusing on the subject itself. Okay, so we classify library based on subject, while for the archive we classify it based on groups. Okay, until the last few decades, each archive chose its own way to organize their material, especially regarding level of control and depth of description. There have been several major schools of thought emerged throughout the years as for to how organization, arrangement of archival material should be done. Okay, alright. So the one that seems important is respect this one. Okay, this term always been asked in the final exam. So since you this semester we do not have a final exam, so might be it could be in the your final test. Okay, which means that archival material created and or collected together should be kept together in the original order without mixing in record or material from other creator or collection. So the concept of respect this font contains two sub-principles: provenance and original order. Okay, this one we are going to talk later on in the chapter 3, organizing material in the archive. So manager archive but archivist is a professional, is a person, okay, that collects and preserves important documents, video and audio recording determined to hold value. So they must also have to collect and store this information properly to ensure they maintain their integrity for the future use. So archivists also determine what holds value, which is financial or intellectual, as the information is often available to the public, therefore it must be easy to find and access. Archivists are charged with the task of providing access to the information. So they have to make the information available if there is a request from the person or in organization about the record itself. Okay. So archivists serve an important function in society as the keeper of all current and past record. The content and quality of those records will determine how the past is viewed through the lens of the future. So archivists determine what information is important through the archive, thus determining what is important enough to pass on the future generation. So many archivists has access to great works of visual and literary arts, important government document and other relics to understand the past. Without proper care and storage of archive, there would be no reminder left of the past. That is the reason why archive keep all the records itself, because we want to review the previous one, what will happen the past one. Okay, so that we can make it as a guideline for us to have to berbetulkan. Kalau kita nak, we want to make sure that in the future if there is a mistake that have been done before cannot be done later on. Okay, so this is example of the National Archive of Australia. Okay, so that's about archive. Now move on to the museum. So a sneak peek at museum. Okay, this is the Louvre Museum in Paris. So the first truly public museum was the Louvre Museum in Paris, opened in 1793 during the French Revolution, which enabled for the first time in history free access for the former French royal collection for people of all station and status. So what is museum? Alright, museum is typically a permanent institution in the service of society and of its development, open to the public, which acquire, conserve, research, communicates and exhibit for purpose of study, education, enjoyment, the tangible and intangible evidence of people and their environment. So what is tangible and intangible evidence? What is it? Okay, later on I will ask this in the class. So make sure you find out what is tangible and intangible evidence of people. Alright. So Museum Association in UK in 1998 defined museum as a enable people to explore collection for inspiration, learning and enjoyment. There are institutions that collect, safeguard and make accessible artifacts and specimens which they hold in trust for society. Okay. There are few museum, okay, that we have in Malaysia. I'm pretty sure some of you might be not been there, okay. So why not after this, later on, all right, try to enter the museum and find out what are the most interesting things or parts that you can just enjoy, for you to give an inspiration, okay, for you to learn, all right, about the community itself, and also to know about the history for the certain parts of our life, okay. So the English museums comes from the Latin words and is pluralized as museums or rarely muse. It is originally from the Greek museum, which denotes a place or temple dedicated to the Muses, the patron divinities in Greek methodology of the art, and hence a building set apart for study and the arts, especially the Institute for Philosophy and Research at the library established at Alexandria by Ptolemy I, Sota c. 280 before century. So this was conspired by many to be the first museum or library. So museums collect and care for objects of scientific, artistic or historical importance and make them available for public viewing through exhibits that may be permanent or temporary. Right, so large museums are located in major cities throughout the world and more local ones exist in small cities. So most museums offer programs, activities for a range of audience, including adults, children, family, as well as those for more specific professions. Okay? So programs for the public may consist of lectures or tutorial by the museum faculty or field expert, film, musical or dance performance and technology demonstration. So many times museums concentrate on the host of the region's culture. Alright, so one of the museums that have been there at the Museum Tsunami, okay, over there, they put the artifact, okay, from the tsunami event, alright, such as the bicycle, okay, bicycle, that bicycle with kata apa, dengan selut-selut dia, so they put into the display one, so we can just directly see, okay, what was happened when tsunami comes in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, so sorry, not 2040, 2004, 2005. Okay, so museums are usually open to the general public, sometimes charging an admissions fee. So certain museum do have a fee, but certain museum they just place a tabung over there, so you can just donate, okay, certain amount of money over to the museum itself. All right, so museums are usually not run for the purpose of making a profit, unlike galleries which engage in the sale of objects. So museum, we don't have a profit, making a profit, no, okay, basically no. Alright, so there are governmental museum, non-governmental or non-profit museum, and privately owned or family museum. So a museum normally houses a core collection of important selected objects in its field. Alright, so objects are formally occasions accessions by being registered in the museum's collection with an artifact number and details recorded about their provenance. Okay, so the person in charge of the collection and of the exhibit are known as a curator. So remember, the person or the professional that manage the museum itself known as a curator, not museumist. Okay, so librarian, archivist. So museum is curator, not museumist. Okay. So types of museum, there are many types of museum, from very large collection in major cities covering many of the categories below to very small museum covering their a particular location in a general way or a particular subject such an individual notable person. So within this category, many museums specialize further. Example, Museum of Modern Art, Local History, Aviation History, Agriculture or Geology. So this is the categories of the museum itself. So you can just find arts, okay, applied arts, craft, archaeology, anthropology, ethology, and so on and so forth. Okay. So this is a minimum explanation, okay, about types of museum. You can find out by yourself, okay. So natural history museum, many were funded by industry titans of yesteryears, okay. Some incorporate planetarium and a few have observatories. They also conduct academic research and maintain collection of minerals, insect, mammals, birds, shell, etc., and have some life location collection. Meanwhile, for the history museum, okay, and historic houses or site, example battlefields, often have collection on display inside building as well as interpretive signage and robust effect outside. Okay. For the Children Museum, is a new model of museum that strikes the definition of museum as it has few or no collection. It is experiencing rapid growth as it focuses on providing experience and learning program for children and families. So in US, there are about 300 children museum. Okay. For the art museum, so display work of art by local, national or international, and many offer classes in the various discipline of arts. So differ from art gallery because art gallery refer to business that sell art or promote one artist. Meanwhile, for the art museum, we don't make any profit making. So we just to expose, okay, to the user about the art itself. Okay. So role of museum, sorry for this number, it's not true. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 roles of museum. The first one is centers of learning. Okay, offer people of all age and future generations access to our nation culture and natural heritage. It also provides them public and interactive object-based place to better understand each community, our nation and our worlds. Okay, there's a center of learning, so people go there to find out, okay, what happened to that certain national or certain country itself, okay, about the history. And then civic institution have a deeply rooted community connection that is uniquely their own, okay, as a civil institution. So you know certain place because of what. So normally museum will just preserve that kind of place, okay. And then protector of our artistic, historic, scientific and cultural heritage, definitely. All right, that's one of the roles for museum. As a key partner in travel and tourism, some of the people wants to go to certain place because you want to know the history of the certain place. So normally museum will cooperate with the travel and tourism agencies to bring, okay, tourists to this kind of museum, okay. And also as a key element in attracting and retaining major business activities is to attract and to retain the best workforce possible. Location consideration are made not only on the quality of school and tax intensive but also on access to cultural resources that includes a dynamic museum community. This one is more on the museum outside of from Malaysia, okay, because they contribute to the tax also. So professions in the museum, we do have historian, curator and also conservator. Okay. So for the collection, although library and archive may contain some visual materials, but the collection of museum are artifacts and objects of material culture that consist primarily of visual material in 2 or 3-dimensional form. For example, artifacts, specimen, artwork. Okay, so art museum acquire their material through an institution acquisition department, while in natural history museum, artifact acquire largely from the fieldwork. Okay, so how to organize? How to organize museum object or artifact? So art museum acquire the material through an institution acquisition department or accession record are created. So they create the accession record. This similar procedure same to the archive one. And then in natural history museum, artifacts are acquired largely from the fieldwork. Okay, preliminary record is made. If it is decided to keep the object in the collection, the accession record are created. So artifact acquired from field. Preliminary field records are made and then accession record are created. This is the process, okay, how they are going to manage the collection in the natural history museum. So summarize information about the source, so from where it comes, okay, And then briefly describe the physical data and content of the collection, include their weight, their size, okay, of the artifact itself, alright. And also sometimes similar objects are described as a single lot, okay, they just mainly for that museum only, not for the other museum. So the unique or the collection itself become more uh, unique. The people want to know, okay, better, so they can just go to that museum only, okay, to find out what is the artifact or the material is all about, okay. So this is the example of the artifacts. Alright, so artifact in natural history museum are acquired from, definitely the answer is what? C, fieldwork, field trips, exchange or purchasing. Field trips, okay, this one. Okay, we already mentioned it before. Okay, field work, sorry, from the field work. Alright, field trip, you go for the trip and you find out what are the most interesting things happen to you. Okay, so field work, the answer is C. Alright, artifact in natural history museum are acquired from the field work. Alright, so this is the example of the archaeology field work. Okay, and this example of the accession record for Denver Museum of Natural History. Okay, this is how they keep the record itself, how they determine, okay, how they explain, okay, the object itself here, all right, based on their sizes, all right. And this is a gift, is a purchase or exchange. So noted here is a gift, okay, they received in 1984. Okay, this is the accession catalog for the Museum of Vibrata Zoology. Okay, this is how they identify the animals over there. Okay, so managing museum by the curator, which is the person or a professional level, okay, that being appointed to manage the museum, okay, play a large role by acquiring works and collection, historical, cultural or biological significant, to be displayed, and are responsible for evaluating all inventory and ensuring that artifacts are authentic. That is the responsibility of the curator. So curator also must to ensure that objects are carefully preserved and stored in the proper temperature in order for the work to be enjoyed by future generation. Okay, and curator also have to ensure that material are preserved and maintained for safekeeping by ensuring that the item are not being harmed, access to the sunlight, direct to the sunlight, humidity or temperature, or physical damage. That is the possibility the material will be damaged. Okay, so curator is also responsible for writing catalog about exhibit. So they also play a vital role in providing answers to questions from the public about artifact housed in the museum, prepare publicity materials, may also be responsible for fundraising, public outreach, present lectures about exhibit, conduct workshop, and serve as a liaison to the stakeholders. So they might conduct field research and collect specimens for the museum collections. Okay, which one is not the responsibility of the curator? Okay, this is a certain some of the question that being asked. Okay, wait, from A, B, C, D is not the responsibility of the museum curator. Which one? Okay, never mind, later on you just find out by your own. And then another people, again known as a person who helps the curator to manage the museum, known as the registrar. So they are responsible for maintaining every item in the museum, which includes such information as the age of the piece, who donate it, whether the material is on loan from other museum, and the approximate value of the artifact. So as museum item move at a constant rate, either by borrowing or loaning, museum registrars need to keep track of these records or this item. Okay, registrar keep records for the item, photograph the item, inspect it for damage, and also assist in moving items to and from museum storage to ensure proper handling. Typically control the flow of catalog materials in and out of the collection storage, also add new materials to the collection, and are responsible for the digital or hard copy of the materials. They also have to maintain record to ensure that in the future people will be able to locate the object in the charge and they know where they came. Okay, that's all about this week. Okay, in the different contexts in the museum and also archive contacts. Okay, so thank you everyone.